The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, May 6th. I hope everybody is doing well, having a good start to your week. All right, we got a lot of topics to talk about today, a lot going on. I had to cut a bunch out. We might add a couple. We'll see. We'll see where this takes us. Anyway, I thought when planning the show a little earlier, I thought I'd be talking about the Israeli attack on the Houthis. This after the United States has been, for 3-4 weeks now, attacking the Houthis supposedly nonstop, every day, all the time. And yet, it seemed like yesterday's Israeli attack on the Houthis had a massive impact. And we'll talk about that. But of course, then a couple of hours ago, Donald Trump basically declared that the Houthis, announced that the Houthis have capitulated. So we'll talk about that as well. So, yeah, I mean, yesterday, thank you, Silvanos. Thank you, Vadim. Thanks, Silvanos. $50 sticker. Really appreciate that. The Israeli Air Force yesterday, 30 planes, 2,000 kilometers from Israel, attacked a number of targets within Yemen that belong to the Houthis, including the main airport, after telling the Houthis that they were going to attack the airport. How's that for Israeli, I don't know, what do you want to call it? But anyway, telling them, we're going to attack the airport, evacuate, get the civilian airplanes out of there. They attacked the airport today and destroyed whatever civilian airplanes were there. I think there were 3 planes there. They were all destroyed. The terminal was destroyed. A number of the buildings destroyed. They made basically the airport inoperable. The airport is inoperable. In addition, the Israelis struck a number of power plants, a big cement factory, which is a big source of revenue for the Houthis. They're striking economic targets of the Houthi regime rather than just military targets that are moved around all the time and where there seemingly is an endless supply of military equipment, which is what the United States has been done. Now, supposedly the U.S. Participated in this attack on the Houthis as well. Certainly the United States is assisting Israel with maybe refueling, maybe some intelligence in terms of attacking Yemen. I'm not sure exactly what the United States is supplying, but I'm sure it is, given the distance. This attack was pretty devastating. And this, of course, after the Houthis had launched a ballistic missile towards Israel the other day that landed in just outside or just within the boundaries of Israel's international airport. This was Israel's retaliation. This was expected to be the first phase of Israel's retaliation. It was expected that Israel would continue retaliating and continue slowly devastating the Houthis. And again, I think the strategy has to be ultimately to encourage Saudi Arabia and encourage the other parties in Yemen to take out the Houthis on the ground and to reoccupy that land. That is the only long-term solution to the problems of the Houthis. But that is not how Trump rolls. That is not how the Trump administration does foreign policy. Not at all. It turns out that over the last few days, Witkoff, Trump's chief capitulator, we'll call him capitulator, should be negotiator, but capitulator in chief, was in Aden, which has been mediating between the United States and the Houthis. And it seems that a deal was actually struck. It's not exactly clear the nature of the deal, but it does seem like, effective immediately, the Houthis will stop targeting commercial and naval shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. I assume that includes all flagged ships, including Israeli ships, but we don't know. We're not sure. This, of course, was all agreed to this morning after the Israeli attack, right? In addition, does the deal include the Houthis stopping to launch ballistic missiles at Israel? Unclear. Trump didn't mention that. This is all coming about in his press conference with Connie. He disclosed all this information. But in addition, it includes, of course, that the United States will immediately stop all bombing of the Houthis, and that will all stop. One of the targets, I guess, last night was also fuel storage infrastructure that the Houthis have, and again, the power plants, the cement plant, and importantly, Sana's International Airport. Israel and the United States seem to finally get serious about the Houthis, and they strike a deal. And I get it. We got what we wanted. Opening up the shipping lanes, that's good, right? That's what the U.S. is there for, protecting the shipping lanes. And maybe the Houthis will stop sending ballistic missiles to Israel. That'll be fantastic. That'll be great. But the reality is that from a Houthis perspective, they now know what they have to do to get the world all spun around. What they are going to do, think of the Houthis as, agreeing to a ceasefire. A ceasefire in which, is there any doubt, the Houthis will rearm themselves, will reestablish the supply lines with Iran, will maybe rebuild the port that Israel has struck and the Americans, I think, have struck over time. They'll gain new fuel depots. They'll, more weapons. They'll build up their infrastructure. They'll figure out how to better protect themselves for the next round. And does anybody doubt that there will be a next round? It could be a year from now. It could be 5 years from now. It could be 7 years from now. But that's the point. The point of U.S. foreign policy and for the most part, Israeli foreign policy and military policy is to kick the can down the road. And the United States has achieved its goals after the Israelis got serious in the short run. They have not achieved their goals in the long run. And the long-term goal should have been the complete dismantling of the Houthis and the evisceration, the complete annihilation of their capacity to block the Red Sea in the future. And that, of course, has not happened. But that's because Trump likes cutting deals. It's about the deal. It's not about strategic interests of the United States long term. It's about whether Trump can say, yeah, we got a deal and we won and we got a concession and the Houthis surrendered. The Islamists know how to play the long game. We in the West, our time horizon politically is maybe 4 years. Maybe. 1 second. So while I'm happy that shipping will now go through the Suez Canal, the Egyptians must be very happy. It costs them nothing, and Europeans will be happy because they get their shipping cheaper now. Ships don't have to go around the African Horn. I guess the Israelis will be happy because they get their ships coming up through the south into Eilat or through the Suez Canal into the ports that Israel has on the Mediterranean. And of course, if the Houthis stop the ballistic missiles into Israel, that'll be a huge relief. And, for me, among other things, it'll be great. I was looking, maybe I have to go to Israel like in the next few days, maybe. And I was checking out flights, and basically all the companies have canceled flights into Israel because the Houthis were lobbing bombs onto the airport. So the only company reliably flying into Israeli airports is El Al, the Israeli company. And of course, they're booked up. You can't get a seat on any flight, no matter which city you're trying to leave from, because everybody switched from the Delta, United, British Airways, Austrian Air, whatever, to El Al, and they've taken all the seats. So it's done. So yeah, I'm pretty happy because the airport will probably open up in a sense that it's open, but the foreign companies will all start flying again, and flights to Israel will become significantly cheaper and more available. So it's going to be interesting. Although I do think, and reports out of Israel suggest that the Israelis are really ticked off. They're really angry. They're really unhappy, and that is because they have every incentive now to deal as big of a blow, as serious of a blow as possible to the Houthis. They were getting there, and they really made them suffer. And it turns out that Trump announced this during his press conference with Connie without letting the Israelis know in advance. So the first the Israelis knew of a ceasefire is from the internet. So pretty insane. I'm sure the Israelis are unhappy, primarily of being that they were, that they let them know in this way. And it's still, again, not clear whether this deal incorporates not sending ballistic missiles to Israel. We will find out if indeed it does or it does not. So let's wait and see. And wait and see how this deal plans out. And in a few years, when the Houthis block the Red Sea again, I will be here, right here. Maybe the background will be different. Maybe I'll be in a different place. Who knows? But I will be here telling you all, I told you so. I told you so. Which I've had way too many opportunities to indulge in I told you so. Because I'm actually not happy that so many of my negative predictions have come true. I'm sorry. I'm just reading something Trump just said, and because I'm watching this, people are posting clips from the Trump thing with Connie. We'll get to them. At the end, we'll do a segment of best of Trump. You can categorize it Trump derangement syndrome manifest or whatever. Why Iran doesn't like Trump will have, because these clips are amazing. They're just amazing in terms of what he says. You should watch Trump's interactions with the press. They are so revealing about what he thinks, what he believes, and how he thinks, or how he doesn't think, as the case may be. All right, Gaza. Talk about kicking cans down the road. Gaza. Just a quick update on what's going on in Gaza. Again, Trump is supposedly going to do a visit to the Middle East sometime in May. And he supposedly he's visiting Israel, Saudi Arabia, and a bunch of other places. So that's in the cards. Anyway, Israel is solidifying a plan for the next phase of its war in Gaza and on it for its takeover of the Gaza Strip. I'm not going to show you a map now and the corridors and everything they're doing, but basically the idea is that what Israel wants to do is to basically occupy the Gaza Strip splice it into segments, basically destroy Hamas, take responsibility for all the humanitarian aid itself. That is, if you want humanitarian aid, you'll have to go to an area controlled by Israel, and where they will make sure you're not Hamas, and you will get the aid. So Hamas can't profiteer off of all the aid going in. They're also going to allow for local administrators who are not members of Hamas to run local life. But Israeli military will be basically minutes away from any point in Gaza if they need to deploy. So they will have all the key routes that gives them access to where the Palestinians, where Hamas potentially is, and where the hostages might be. They're also talking about building a big refugee camp, until a solution to reconstruct Gaza is reached, and also facilitating for those Gazans who want to leave Gaza, facilitating flights from Gaza. There's an airport in Israel that they can use to fly them, wherever in the world that will accept them. So I think they've already flown out several hundred Gazans, particularly sick children and so on, to places like Europe and other places. So Israel is following through on this idea that if any Gazan who wants to leave, Israel will help them do so, which I think is a good strategy. I think it's right. And assuming, of course, that they have somewhere to leave to, that somewhere is willing to take them. So that is, in general, the strategy. This is going to require significant additional troops because it means occupying a significant chunk of territory within Gaza, and they need bodies, they need troops. In Israel, they're trying to recruit more of the ultra-Orthodox, but that is not going anywhere near as well as they would like. The ultra-Orthodox continue to resist, and the Israeli government will not, be harsh with them, and is not in a sense, putting real pressure on them to enlist. And so Israel is calling up reserves. It's calling up tens of thousands of reserves. They have the north under control. They have Syria under control. They can focus, and the West Bank. They've over the last few months, they have done things to significantly reduce the risk of terrorist activity out of the West Bank, not to zero, but significantly reduce it. They've gone into Jenin, the refugee camp there. They've destroyed terrorist cells there. They've imprisoned many people. So they've made the different fronts safer. They can concentrate all their efforts on Gaza. They are pausing all of this, next phase of aggression, if you will, next phase of taking Gaza over and working towards finding a permanent solution to Gaza. They are pausing everything because Trump is coming. And of course, Trump could, while he's there, tell them, oh, no. Witkoff, come here. You got to cut a deal. You got to make a deal. We don't want war. We don't want bombing. We don't want any more of this. So Israel is risking, by pausing, that Trump will change his mind and force them into a compromise that they don't really want. We'll wait and see. Hard to tell, but Trump will be there soon. Trump will be there soon, and we'll see what happens after he leaves and whether Israel will actually execute on what it has promised to do. So that is the update. In the meantime, Israel's preparing the ground. It's paving kind of corridors, roads. It is flattening areas, and it is still bombing on a regular basis pretty much every day. Particularly those areas, targeting Hamas operatives, Hamas leadership, and so on. So they will continue to do that, I don't think, with any real stoppage. All right. Note that Witkoff is also trying to negotiate the deal with Iran. The Houthis and Iran are significantly connected. So Aden is probably also a go-between with the Iranians. So a lot of moving parts here. None of them, I think, are good, right? All of them, I think, are towards deal-making, and I view deal-making with monsters as kicking the can down the road, as basically, delaying having to deal with the actual problem. The actual problem is Islamism, the Islamists, those who support them, those who fund them, those who enable them, primarily the Iranian regime, as long as that regime is alive and well. And the richer that regime becomes, and a deal will make them rich, of course, the more damage they will do. The more damage they're capable of doing, the more damage they will do. All right, let's move from there to, a deal was announced. A trade deal was announced. A trade deal that dramatically lowers tariffs and it opens up other barriers to trade, opens them up, and the deal is with India. And it's a big deal. It's a major move towards significantly greater free trade. The caveat, of course, here is that the deal that India just struck is not with the United States. The deal India just struck is with the UK. This deal will eventually eliminate almost all of each country's tariffs and liberalize bilateral services trade as well, not just tariffs, not just for goods, but also for services. Services usually are not tariffed. Services are usually they're just restrictions. You just can't come here and do finance. So the idea is to eliminate much of this. So to read out of the article that describes this, the UK said about 90% of tariff lines will be reduced for British exports to India, including 85% that will be fully tariff-free, zero, within a decade. Whiskey and gin tariffs will be halved to 75%. Before reducing to 40% by the 10th year of the deal, while automotive industry tariffs will reduce to 10% under a quota from 100% over that period. Look, this is not ideal, but this is a move towards freer trade. The British ministry also said Indian customers will gain cheaper access to British cosmetics, aerospace, lamb, medical devices, salmon, electrical machinery, soft drinks, chocolate, and biscuits. Oh, British biscuits. Britons, in turn, could see cheaper prices in clothing, footwear, and food products. If you look at, the tariffs going from India to Britain, they are being reduced by 99% over many products. India also has secured market access for services, including information technology. India is very good at IT, and now that they will be exporting to the United States, and has agreed to a mechanism with the UK that will allow it to seek recourse in case of exports as impacted by Europe's carbon emission rules. Anyway, a deal has been cut that liberates trade. And you know what's amazing about this deal? What's really interesting about the deal is that it didn't require threats. It didn't require flexing muscles. It didn't require raising tariffs to 145% or reciprocity. It just required the British and the Indians to sit down, and probably took them months. Maybe this has been going on for years, I don't know. And they worked through it, and they got a deal. And the deal is, any deal that increases freedom, increases trade freedom, a deal that is good for both parties, stunningly. It's a deal that is win-win. So all this mythology about Trump's tariffs are just a negotiating tool. Why do you need a negotiating tool? All you have to do is go negotiate. That's all you need. Indeed, Trump has made it very clear that this is not about negotiating. Trump has made very clear that he's not interested in lowering trade barriers across the world. That's not his goal. That's not his purpose. Never was, never has been. It's to eliminate the deficit. And even then, I'm not sure that would satisfy him. There's a real dislike of trade. So yes, this is good news for Britain. This is, of course, the promise of Brexit was to do a lot of this. It's not huge in a sense that trade with India for the UK is not big, but you do one with India. They've already got some kind of a deal with with some of the Commonwealth countries. Maybe they can try, and they are trying to get a deal with Trump. Get a good deal with the EU, get deals with Africa, get deals with other countries, and suddenly it has a massive impact on the UK. Now, again, my preferred way of doing deals is unilateral, zero tariffs. And watch how we thrive, and then the rest of the world will emulate us because we're doing so well with zero tariffs. That must be the right strategy. But no, nobody's going to do that. They're too cowardly. Too cowardly. That's exactly, by the way, what I said in the House of Lords. I said, you don't need a trade deal with Trump. Just cut tariffs to zero. That's the beauty of Brexit. You don't have to ask Brussels permission to cut tariffs to zero. You can do it yourselves. But just make England a free trade island, and you will prosper. Now, of course, the lords that might represent farming districts in Great Britain are not very happy with that idea, because then their farmers will have to compete, I don't know, maybe with African farmers and American farmers and European farmers. And God forbid we actually have competition. That is no good. No. We don't like competition. Which brings me to Nucor. Now, for those of you who don't know Nucor in the 70s, 80s, Nucor was this new kid on the block in American steel. It revolutionized how steel is made. At a time when U.S. Steel and Bethlehem Steel were basically in decline, and ran often to the government for help, subsidies, tariffs, anything. It was Nucor that actually showed how to actually compete in steel. And, they did phenomenally well. The CEO in those days was a man named Kenneth Iverson. And Ken Iverson was just one of these phenomenal, great CEOs who believed in capitalism, believed in competition, and who basically revolutionized the American steel industry. And throughout his tenure, Iverson was at the head, I think, of Nucor for about 30 years, was the CEO. As David says, Nucor specialized in recycling scrap steel, right? And using an incredibly efficient process in order to do this. And, throughout his tenure, Iverson kept telling his buddies in the steel industry, stop with the tariffs. Stop with protectionism. He said, it's not going to save our industry. It's going to kill our industry. Iverson pointed out that only competition from outside the United States and inside the United States, particularly from startups like his own, could force the industry to compete, become more profitable, become more productive, and become more profitable. But the big guys were never interested. I mean, Bethlehem Steel is one of the original crony American businesses going back to the late part of the 19th century. U.S. Steel embraced cronyism. Republic Steel, the big steel companies had no interest in this. And of course, as governments, as the U.S. government, continued starting in the 70s, 80s, 90s into today, the more they protected the steel industries, the less competitive U.S. steel became. U.S. steel manufacturers used to dominate the world, and now it's being surpassed by its competitors. And again, in direct proportion to the amount of protection they have received. Europeans, Asians, even South Americans, like in Brazil, do a better job. Their competitors are willing to experiment. They're willing to use different processes. They're willing to innovate. The Japanese, Nippon Steel, which was going to buy U.S. steel until Biden stopped them, and it looks like Trump will continue that. The problem with U.S. steel was never that European and Asian companies were competing unfairly. And Ken Iverson knew this. The problem was that U.S. companies were not competing. They were sitting on their laurels. And they were relying on trade barriers to protect them. An excuse has always been national defense. You need steel to build tanks. Nobody's building. So, the steel industry continues to be unprotective and relatively unproductive. It's why Nippon could buy U.S. steel. And while there were periods in which companies like Nucor kind of forced the companies to become more productive, as soon as they met another barrier, they ran to the government for more protection. U.S. industry prices have fallen. Employment is stagnant. The stock market doesn't like steel companies, and Trump's tariffs are only going to push up overall prices, reduce output, and hurt sales. Now the tragic twist in the story. The tragic twist of the story is the Nucor is one of the biggest promoters right now of more tariffs on steel. Nucor loves Trump's tariffs. They've lost Kenneth Iverson's spirit. They've lost the competitive mindset. Now they just want to be coddled and protected by big government. But here's the funny thing, right? While Nucor, got the tariffs they wanted on steel that their competitors were producing, they didn't realize that Trump's global tariffs also apply to new equipment, which they mostly buy from Europe, raw materials like pig iron and what's called direct reduced iron. All these things are going to go up in price. The reality is that the pig iron imports that last year were 4.7 million metric tons, most of it from Brazil, are going to be more expensive. Equipment's more expensive. Everything's more expensive. Profits are going to be down. Nucor, which was planning to expand, is going to have a hard time getting that equipment from Europe in order to expand, because now that equipment is suddenly significantly more expensive. So, it's sad, tragic to see one of the great 20th century, later part of the 20th century companies, led by a giant of industry, led by a man who understood capitalism, understood the value of freedom, free trade, understood the value of competition, that the company that he helmed is now just one more crony among the steel companies, and it's perfect. that they are suffering with the rest of the steel industry from Trump's tariffs. Tariffs, they're always a lose-lose, and we're the ones who lose. And they're not a negotiating strategy. Look at UK, India. Just signed a great deal for both parties. Win-win. They didn't need a negotiating threats. They didn't need to raise tariffs on one another to get to the negotiating table. Indeed, all Trump has to do tomorrow is say, hey, by the way, I'd love to negotiate trade deals. Who wants to negotiate? And I'm lowering tariffs, and I'd love to get to zero tariffs across the world. Who wants zero tariffs with us? And you will get dozens of countries coming to the table. Not what he wants. Not what he wants. All right. Talk about companies that are suffering from the tariffs. And sorry, Jennifer, but Ford. Big story yesterday in Bloomberg. Why is this not letting me? What the hell? Yeah, there we go. Big story in Bloomberg yesterday about Ford. Ford has suspended its 4-year financial guidance. This is where typically the CEO and the CFO tell Wall Street, okay, this is what our expectations are for the next year, for the next 12 months in terms of sales and earnings, revenue and profits. They've suspended that. They also said that the tariffs, the auto tariffs, are going to take a significant toll on profits. While they can't say exactly how much because of all the uncertainty and the moving target, it's clearly going to take a toll on profits. They expect duties to reduce 2025 adjusted earnings before interest and taxes by about $1.5 billion on a net basis just this year. And the total tariff impact is going to be about $2.5 billion. And, you know, they're hoping they can offset about $1 billion of that. But, you know, with you know, maybe raised prices. But $1.5 billion will be a hit to profitability. Ford shares as a result of this fell yesterday, or this morning when the markets opened. Today's Tuesday, right? The market opened today, it fell by 1%. Yeah, I mean, the tariffs were supposed to protect Ford. They were supposed to be good for Ford. You know, this is exactly what I told you would happen. It's exactly what all the economists told you would happen. It's exactly what you'd expect. There is no upside to tariffs. You know, we will see how Ford does, how other companies does, and how they react to this. By the way, the $1 billion could be from raising prices, could be from cutting costs. But clearly, tariffs by Ford, even though they're there to protect Ford, are viewed by Ford as a headwind. And of course, this is true of all the auto companies have said basically the same thing. According to U.S. automakers, the tariffs will increase cost, jeopardize employment, and potentially increase new car prices that are already pretty lofty, I guess, at $50,000 a car on average. When you can get a brand new luxury electric SUV made by BYD for $16,000. Think what you could do with the $34,000 you would save. But you will not have that. See, that is how you raise the standard of living of people. You get them to buy same product, a car, but for a lot cheaper. which means they have a lot more money for other stuff. This is the beauty of trade. This is how trade raises standard of living, quality of life. Americans have benefited enormously from all the cheap stuff coming in from China and elsewhere around the world. It's left more money in their pockets to save, to go on vacation, to buy other goods. In other words, to raise the standard of living. And this is true of everybody. Because wages have been going up, wealth has been going up, the stock market's been going up to the extent people's savings are in the stock market. U.S. has done amazingly well. Amazingly well. Why do you care that dollars go to China? Anyway, yeah, there are only so many times you can make the same argument over and over again, and some people just are not meant, do not have the capacity to understand. Like my dollars go to the grocery store. God, I lose those dollars every time I go to the grocery store. It's terrible. I'm going to stop going to the grocery store. That'd be great. Oh, which reminds me, Trump today said that, this is again in the press conference with Connie, he said, by not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. That's a lot. You can't make Trump sound dumber than just quoting what he says. Yep, stop buying food, guys. If you grew the food yourself, you'd be so much richer because you could keep all that money. Now, where would you get the money from? Because you'd be spending all your time buying the food. Where would you get the money from? Yeah, we could go on and on and on making fun of that statement. There's a million ways you can cut it that all of them, just makes it look worse and worse. One of the things that Ford is, of course, blaming for the problems is what they call industry-wide supply chain disruptions. And that's exactly what tariff and trade restrictions and uncertainty and all of this is causing. It's a disaster, and there's no value to it. There's no upside. There's no good to it. There's nothing to be gained from it. Guys in the chat, let me make a suggestion. Ignore Edward. I mean, the guy can't think. He just can't. And so everything he's saying just makes no sense. And you asking him a question and trying to straighten him out is not going to make any difference because he can't do it. He can't. There's a barrier there somewhere. It's hard. I know it's hard for some of us to get that some people cannot do it, but he can't. He can't think straight. All right. Here's the big concern. It's not TDS. It's the Trump zombie syndrome. It makes your brain stop functioning, and yeah, that's what happens. So right now, as you watch financial markets, as I do a little bit, and you watch what's going on in the world, maybe the most striking thing, the stock market's gone up. It's recovered a lot of what it lost. The interest rates are up. The 10-year bond is up. Not as high as it was about 2 weeks ago, but it's still at about 4.3%, which is high. And given inflation was heading towards 2.5%, that's high. So we've got interest rates that are going up and higher. But what is truly striking, and we've talked about this a few times, is really the decline, the dramatic and significant decline of the dollar. The dollar is going down. Now, as I've told you before, that is not what you expect when you unleash tariffs. Tariffs in normal times actually should result in the value of the dollar going up because people still want to invest in the United States. Now they're not selling stuff to Americans. They get the dollars, and they're not getting as many dollars from selling stuff to Americans because of tariffs. They don't sell as much. So instead of selling them, what they do is they go into the foreign exchange markets and they buy the dollar, and that drives the value of the dollar up so that they can invest in the US. And indeed, Asian countries, China, but also Taiwan and Japan, maybe less so Japan, but certainly Singapore and Thailand and South Korea, all the Asian countries generally have relatively high saving rates. They're all net exporters to the United States, so they sit on large reserves of dollars. And then what do they do with those dollars? They don't sell the dollars. They use those dollars to buy American financial assets. And this is true, for example, of, let's say, Taiwan. Taiwanese life insurance companies have a massive, massive investment in dollar-denominated U.S. Treasury bonds. Because Taiwan exports a lot to the U.S., which means dollars flow from the U.S. to Taiwan. Those dollars then find their way to the life insurance industry because they want to buy them, they want to have them. Life insurance companies use those dollars to buy American treasuries. So the dollars, all the dollars that go out flow back to the United States, all of them. Right? Even the ones that are sold on the foreign exchange, what do the buyers do with the dollars? They either buy stuff in the U.S. or they invest in the U.S. But every dollar ultimately that leaves the U.S. comes back to the U.S. Very few dollars actually held in the mattresses of Asians and Europeans and others. Nobody puts dollars in a mattress. I mean, sure, maybe people keep some cash around just in case for emergencies, but that's not a huge amount. Almost all the dollars flow back in the form of investment. So right now, for example, Taiwan's life insurance industry is holding gazillions of dollars, and I had somewhere here, I had the exact number, but a huge amount of money, right, in U.S. treasuries. And this is now a real problem for them. Because over the last month, and in particular for some reason, just over the last few days, the value of the dollar has plummeted. And I'll tell you why the value of the dollar has plummeted in a minute, but the value of the dollar has plummeted. Now, what happens to the value of those U.S. Treasury bonds in Taiwanese dollars when the value of the dollar goes down? Well, the Taiwanese life insurance companies are losing a lot of money. In addition, interest rates are going up. When interest rates go up, we've talked about this, interest rates are inverted relationship, the price of those bonds are going down. Literally over the last 2 days, the Taiwanese government is concerned that the Taiwan's life insurance company might be insolvent. Not because of people dying en masse in Taiwan and they have to pay them out. Not because they've made crazy investment in, drilling in the North Sea. Not because they've invested in anything risky. But because they invested in the dollar. Because they bought dollar-denominated assets in the form of bonds, which have declined in value, both because the asset declined in value in dollars and because the dollar has declined in value dramatically vis-a-vis the Taiwanese dollar. And there is real panic in Taiwan regarding the regarding the just collapse of the dollar in world markets. Dollar's gone down. It went down 8% in 2 days in Taiwan. It recovered a little bit yesterday, but last 2 days of last week, it went down 8%, recovered 3% yesterday. Overall, it's down more than 8% since Liberation Day. Now, this is not just in Taiwan. It is now true all over Asia. Companies, individuals, pension plans, insurance companies, banks that have invested their dollars in U.S. treasuries, in U.S. government bonds, funding our deficit, are now losing a huge amount of money. No foreign country actually holds dollars in reserves. None of them. Again, none of them. There's no vault at the central bank in Taiwan or in China or in any other country that actually has dollar bills in it. It just doesn't exist. When they say they're holding dollar in reserve, what they mean is they've used the dollars to buy treasury bonds. Not that they literally hold cash. Nobody holds cash in reserve. Central banks don't hold cash in reserve. It just is untrue. The dollars all flow back in the form of investment. And why do they flow? Why do all these countries buy U.S. treasuries? Why do they buy U.S. assets? If they hold the dollars, what interest rates do they get? If they hold cash in their vault, what interest rate do they get? No foreign entity holds U.S. cash. Nobody. Because how much interest do they get on that? Zero. How much do you get on the cash that you hold in your pocket? Zero. So they buy U.S. 10-year bonds, and they get 4.3% on them. And they can sell them because it's the most liquid market in the world. They can sell them like that. But when they sell them like that, they have to assume that the dollar hasn't changed in value. The dollar hasn't gotten weaker, because if the dollar gotten weaker, then in their local currencies, when the Taiwanese life insurance sells a bond right now, it's lost 8%. And let me tell you, life insurance companies work on very, very low margins. They cannot afford to lose 8% in just a few weeks. And it's more than 8%. Because when they bought the bonds, they were priced higher. The bonds have come down in price, and they lost 8%. And why is the dollar declining in value? Why is the dollar declining in value when economics suggests that if you raise tariffs, the dollar should increase in value? Because people have decided across the world that the U.S. is not a good place to invest. They do not want to invest in the U.S., given what Trump is doing. The dollar was very strong under Biden, very strong. It reached peaks versus the yen. It was relatively high relative to the euro and the pound sterling. But with Trump, the dollar has just collapsed because Europeans, Asians, businesses, banks, insurance companies, they do not want to invest in the U.S. And they're afraid that, this Miran, who is Trump's chief economic advisor, Miran has put out there that as part of the deals, the trade deals that the administration is going to seek, they're going to require foreign governments to actively weaken the dollar. Because a weak dollar makes American goods cheaper for foreigners. So they think this will actually increase exports and decrease imports, because it'll make foreign goods more expensive for Americans, decrease American standard of living, quality of life. So people are afraid that the deals that Trump is going to announce in the next couple of weeks involve countries that we cut deals with weakening the dollar, actively going into the foreign exchange markets and weakening the dollar. People are running away from the dollar. They're running away from American investments. This is bad for America. It's not good. It reverses a trend that's been going on since World War II, which is America is a safe haven, the dollar is a safe haven, and the dollar therefore becoming the dominant medium of exchange around the world, the reserve currency around the world. By the way, when we say reserve currency, we don't mean they actually hold currency. It means the deals are denominated in dollars, but in terms of the reserves, they hold bonds. Everybody holds bonds. Even banks don't hold currency. They hold bonds. They buy securities. They don't have cash. They have very little cash. That's why it's so easy to do a bank run. And that's why when there is even the slightest bank run, they have to sell securities to get the cash because they don't hold cash. Anyway, this is not good. It's again going to weaken the United States, less investment in the U.S. Puts in question how we're going to fund all the debt we're taking on. The deficit is only growing under Trump. And the funding of that deficit is going to become harder and harder because people are going to demand a higher and higher interest rate in order to fund it. They want compensation for the volatility that is involved in the dollar. They want compensation for the fact that the U.S. is running such large debts that there's a risk they won't pay it off. They want compensation for the fact that the U.S. might inflate, might cause inflation because of the because they can't pay off the debts. So the only other way to deal with it is to inflate it away. By the way, gold is going up. Gold is going up because countries are using gold as a means to get away from owning dollars. Gold is going up because people are increasing their gold reserves because they don't want to hold dollars because dollars are declining. So they're selling their dollars to buy gold. Why? Because of uncertainty, because of fear, because of risk. Gold is the fear hedge. It's not a one-on-one inflation hedge. What it really is a fear hedge. It's a protection against volatility. And one of the reasons they're buying gold is because they don't trust the dollar because of Trump. Trump wants to depreciate it, and it's being depreciated. He also wants it to stay the reserve currency of the world. He wants contradictory things all the time. It's one of the characteristics. But the reality is, look, the tariff policies are sparking fears of a global economic downturn, but primarily in the United States. And why would you want to own U.S. assets if there's going to be a downturn? Why would you want to own U.S. dollars if there's going to be a downturn? And the reciprocal tariffs on Asian countries were massive because they have the largest deficits. We have the largest deficits with them. And what Trump hates are deficits. And therefore, Trump is going to go after these Asian countries. And they're going to have the highest tariffs. And, that's incredibly destructive. So people are saying, yeah, we don't need your dollars. We'll find something else. And one of those things that they will find is gold. And that's one of the reasons gold is going up. I didn't look today at how gold is doing, but gold is up a lot today, way up today, 3.26, while silver's up 3%, while the euro's up, pound is up, the yen is up, and the dollar is down against everything. And this is in spite of the fact that interest rates, are still pretty healthy in the United States, pretty high. By the way, stock market's down as well today, almost 1%. All right. I think we're good there. All right. Let's see. Final topic. Yeah. God, if you're traveling, make sure to avoid Newark Airport. Now, Newark Airport was never fun to travel through. It's never been a particularly nice airport. But it's become a nightmare. There are massive disruptions. Right now, over the last 24 hours, there have been 800 flight cancellations and delays, not because of weather, but because of staffing issues among air traffic control. The air traffic control system is failing because there are not enough people. The Secretary of Transportation is warning similar delays could spread nationwide. And, he's announcing that he wants to overhaul the entire system. It's about time. But remember, we've already seen people fired from these places, air traffic control people laid off. And it's no question, it's riskier to fly now than it has been in the past. Thank you, Doge and Trump. The solution, of course, is obvious, and I don't know why Ronald Reagan didn't do it, and I don't know why it was done in the past, but even the Canadians have figured this out. The solution is to privatize air traffic control, to turn it over to private companies, to get the government out of the way. The systems, the computers, the methodology being used at American airports for air traffic control are primitive, to say the least, given advancement in technology, advancement in computers. It's stunning how little has been done to upgrade and improve air traffic control. And, people are feeling it right now in Newark Airport in New Jersey. But and you're seeing pictures of long lines of airplanes waiting to take off. But this is going to become a bigger and bigger problem, as this shortage of air traffic control personnel filters through the system. Again, the solution is get government out of it. Government shouldn't own airports, shouldn't own the traffic control system. There should be competing companies, and they should have the incentive to upgrade their systems, and they should face liability if they screw up. Like much of what government does today, it should be privatized. That's the solution. By the way, Canada did it in the 1990s, and the United States, there's a model for it. I don't know that the Canadian system is perfect, but it's sure is better than the American one. And you can find articles about the Canadian privatization and how well it has worked and how well it's done. All right, so that was what I planned. A few other things coming out of Trump's press conference with Carney, the Canadian Premier, for your edification, but primarily for your entertainment. So Trump says at some point, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. How does that work? So now trade is one-sided. They do a lot of business with us, but we don't do a lot of business with them. Just a few facts. The United States and Canada are each other's largest trading partners. We trade more with Canada than any other country in the world. Canada trades with us more than any other country in the world. In recent years, bilateral trade, imports and exports combined, between the U.S. and Canada has exceeded $700 billion annually. That's a lot of business. U.S. exports a wide range of goods and services to Canada: machinery, vehicles, electronics, agricultural products. And the U.S. imports quite a few things from Canada, auto parts, but a lot of oil, particularly the oil from the sand which is heavy oil, which we use. There are a number of refineries in the south of the United States that use that oil, that are built for that oil. The United States does a lot of business with Canada. So Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Does not know what he's talking about. Connie corrects him at some point. Maybe he's learned from Zelensky, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Trump is sitting there making stuff up in this press conference. It's truly amazing. Here's a reporter asks Trump, what concessions do you want out of Canada? And Trump says, friendship. And the reporter says, it's not a concession. But that's okay. I mean, Trump doesn't know what concession means. So it's okay. It's okay. He's only the president of the United States. So there's nothing to really worry about or to fear here. It's not more than, yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing, but yeah, everything's fine. He's hysterical. I mean, the guy is super funny.
It's a very special place.
I mean, here's what he says, right? He wants friendship, and the guy says, but friendship is not a concession. And he says, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada's a very special place. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada. My mother in particular. I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one. There's a good hockey player right now in the Capitals who has he's really big, tough cookie. Turns out that guy's Russian, not Canadian, but that's okay. Canada, Russia, they're very close. I mean, I can't say what I think of Trump. But objectively, what he is. And I don't need to say it. Because all you have to do is listen to his press conference. All you have to do is listen to his press conference. Listen to him interact with journalists. And any objective assessment of that has to conclude that the guy either can't think or doesn't know anything, but probably both. And you can yell TDS all you want. All you want. All right. That is the news for this Tuesday, May 6th. And we are going to go to your Super Chat questions. We've done very well so far with the Super Chat. So we're up to, we've covered the first hour. We've covered most of the second hour. $50 just came in. So we're basically, $30 short of the second hour goal. So I'm pretty sure we'll get to the second hour goal. And now we have to go for the third hour goal because, we've got a lot of questions and we might stretch into that third hour. It might actually happen. I can hope that we can achieve that goal. It would be great for us to achieving the May goals more broadly. All right, let's take a look at what we have here. We have before that, how do I forget? Patreon. Become a Patreon supporter. It's a great way to monthly support. You get all kinds of perks, different levels, like at $10, which is kind of the sweet spot at Patreon, I think. You get a commercial-free version of the podcast. You get basically for any podcast app, Apple, whatever you use as a podcast app, Spotify, you'll get my podcast for free. For free in a sense of no commercials, no interruptions, no advertising. For $10 a month on Patreon. So you'll get a RSS feed for that. For $250, you get one-on-one with me. Once every 3 months, we get a chat for half an hour. $500, you get a one-on-one with me. We get to chat for half an hour every month. So please consider trading, supporting the show. It's a value to you. Hopefully, you can provide a value to me. This show is 100% fully, gets no money from the Trump administration. Believe me, no money from the Trump administration. They haven't offered, but I wouldn't take it even if they did. And they'll never offer, as you can imagine. But it's all, money that we get from you. I expect we'll have a couple of new sponsors next month. I expect in June we'll have 2 new sponsors, which will be fantastic. That'll help a lot. But please consider, particularly if you can afford to do so, to becoming a significant supporter. But again, $5, $10 a month is very helpful as well. All right, Alex Epstein is one of our sponsors. Alex writes a Substack at alexepstein.substack.com. He has the best talking points on, educational and great for learning how to communicate. Reading his Substack and really paying attention to how he communicates about very controversial ideas. There's a great tool there to learn from. And so you can get Alex's podcast. He's also got Alex AI. And I just noticed that he published something that was all basically written by Alex AI. So you can communicate with Alex AI as well and ask it questions. And it's being trained on Alex. I mean, yeah, there are 2 Alexes now in the world, Alex and Alex AI. I mean, how spooky is that? It's actually fun. Interacting with Alex is fun. Having 2 Alexes, double the fun. So check out Alex AI. Check out Alex's Substack, alexepstein.substack.com. Sign up, subscribe. At the Ayn Rand Institute I think today's the last day to get your scholarship application in. You can get a scholarship application on aynrand.org/start here. Ocon is a terrific event. We'll be able to hang out. You can play poker with me. I know a number of you are scheming to beat me at poker this year. I know. And they scheme every year. And most of them, all of them fail, with the exception of 1 or 2 people who land up beating me at the final table. But almost everybody else fails to actually kick me out. But I know they're scheming, they're planning. I think some of you have been training and been taking courses on poker, been reading books on poker, just so they can kick me out of the table. So you should join our poker game at Ocon. It's in Boston this year, July 1 through 5. Great talks and great just people who share your values. And believe me, you don't get the obnoxious types on the chat like Edward. Don't come to Ocon because they typically have to pay. So they're not going to pay to be obnoxious. So, they typically don't come. So you get a chat that is much more friendly and much more rational. So you can join and get a scholarship maybe. aynrand.org/start here for scholarship applications. That's it for sponsors. I mean, VPN Express is a sponsor. I use VPN Express whenever I travel. Whenever I do financial stuff, I just don't know who's going to be on the network. It shields you, it protects you, it increases privacy, and it makes it harder to hack. So VPN Express, there's a link below in the description. If you use that link, it's vpnexpress.com. Is it VPN Express or ExpressVPN? I always forget. It's expressvpn.com/Yaron, and you get an extra 3 months of free ExpressVPN when you sign up with them using that link. So don't forget, use the link. Okay, let's jump in with your questions. And let's start with, wow, a lot of $20 questions and a couple of $50. And, we need $14 to make our second hour goal and $264 to make our third hour goal. So keep the $20 and $50 questions coming. David, I listened to an interview on Dispach podcast with a Trump supporter, and she was very clear that Trump grades A+ with his base. Why should the rest of us expect any other policy proposals from him? Well, because I think there's definitely a constituency that he cares about that is not his base. That is, I think he'll milk his base for everything he can, but he's a narcissist, and he wants more than just the base. He also wants other successful people in our world to like him, to admire him, to be positive about him, to say nice things about him. I think he wants the financial markets to reward him for his actions. I think he needs that. This is why I think Trump is he's not an ideologue. He's got nihilistic tendencies. MAGA is definitely nihilistic. But I don't think that's the overwhelming motivation. His overwhelming motivation is to impress certain people. And to do the one thing he loves doing, which is, be against trade. So I think when business leaders go to Trump and complain about the economy and complain about tariffs, and I think he takes that seriously. But you're right in the sense that he scores an A+ with MAGA. MAGA loves him. MAGA will give him an A+ no matter what he does. He knows that. That's why he can afford to get rid of the tariffs, and they'll still give him an A+. But if he lowers the tariffs, he might also get accolades from the financial press or from the CEOs that he likes so much. His yes. So I think there's a chance he becomes better because he wants to please some of the people who want him to do better. Now, he also likes, and maybe he likes this more, the people kissing his ass. And that requires him to do a bunch of these things to force them to come and kiss his ass, right? So, Apple's already kissed his ass, so they got the exclusion from the tariff. The auto companies are going to do a lot of ass kissing. The steel companies have done a lot of ass kissing. Foreign countries have done a lot of ass kissing. And he loves that as well. That's also the kind of attention he really, really loves. Yes, who knows what he'll do ultimately, but I'm hopeful that the positive will be the elements of kind of the business world that I think, where he wants people to like him. He wants to impress them. He wants them to think of him as he's one of the greats, right? Observer Pochet, thank you for the $50. Really appreciate it. Do you think defining and pursuing a personal legacy has value? If so, can you express your personal legacy that you'd like to achieve? Appreciate your show. I mean, it really depends on what you mean by personal legacy. Do you want something? Do you want to achieve something that survives you, that is going to continue indefinitely, or at least beyond your lifespan? In that sense, do you want to achieve a legacy? Do you want to do something that will be remembered? I think there can be value in that, as long as what you're recognizing is the achievement in your lifetime. Because you will not be around to appreciate the accolades that come after you're dead. The accolades that come after you're dead, the fact that people remember you after you're dead, means zero. But to the extent that you can think, wow, I did something so valuable that it's going to outlive me. I created something of such value that people are going to benefit from this, going to, have a positive view of this beyond my life. I think, it says something about the scale of your achievement. Now, obviously, most people can't have a legacy, and I don't think it's certainly a requirement. I don't think it's necessary. For a lot of people, they view their children as a legacy, although I don't think that's right, because you don't actually achieve your children. And even your children's character and your children's success, you can't take credit for. Sorry, but you can't. At the end of the day, only they can take credit for that. They are their own agents. You don't create your children. So I think there's very few people who are going to have a legacy. So I would never say that it's an important thing to strive towards, unless you're at that level in the particular thing that you are doing where you even think that is possible. And the driver is to create great values. And from that will come the legacy. The driver can't be, I want a legacy. It can be, I want a legacy. That can't be a motivation. It can be the reason you do things. The reason you do things is, I want to create great values. And yeah, these values are going to survive beyond me. That's cool. That's great. I'm proud of that. That's what you can do. I mean, what I hope my legacy is, I hope my legacy is the advancement of Ayn Rand's ideas. I hope my legacy is that I've kept the ideas alive, kept people engaged with them, expanded the base of the number of people engaging with them, maybe trained a generation of new intellectuals, helped train, not exclusively trained, but helped train a generation that will expand these ideas even further, grown the Ayn Rand Institute, help make it a serious, significant presence in the culture. That is what I hope my legacy is. It's about preserving and growing and setting on a path of success, of ultimately cultural success, the philosophy of objectivism. That would be my legacy if I have one. All right. Catherine, thank you, Catherine. What is your opinion of Friedrich Merz? This is the new prime minister that was just voted in today in Germany. He lost the first vote, which was a surprise to him and to everybody else, but he won the second vote. Do you think there will be more capitalism and economic growth in Germany in the next years? Look, Merz is a mixed economy, slightly right of center, but not really. He's really a centrist, maybe even left of center, just a little bit more right than the left of center political party in Germany. He's not a capitalist. I fear that Germany is going to rely on debt financing to drive its growth. It's going to rely on government spending to drive its growth. It's going to rely on government spending doing defense buildup. It's going to rely on government spending building infrastructure, and it's going to rely on all of that as the source of growth, rather than taking this opportunity to liberate, free up the private sector, allow the private sector to restructure, get away, and there's a lot of disruption in the world right now, tariffs and everything else. This could be a real opportunity for Germany to reset around a much freer market, reset around what Germany ultimately needs to become, which is a service economy, an economy that is great at design, maybe manufactures certain goods, but Germany needs to manufacture less. It just doesn't have a comparative advantage anymore in manufacturing. It manufactures some things well, but its real abilities, comparative advantage in Germany, is around the design of precision equipment and things like that. So it needs to shift, and it needs to liberate, and it needs to open up. And part of that, I think, is going to require them to accept a real decline in manufacturing. Their manufacturing is old. They need to encourage tech. They need to bring about entrepreneurship, and they can't do that. They cannot do that. Engineering, as Juris says, they're very strong in engineering. They cannot do any of that, but those engineers need to become entrepreneurs. And, they can't do that with the heavily regulated, heavily controlled, and heavy bias towards big business that they have today. They need to liberate their economy, which will liberate their engineers to become entrepreneurs. And I don't think Merz is going to do that. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening. All right, Liam has a 3-part question. Each part is $20, so good for Liam. And by the way, since I said we've got like $14 to get to the goal and so forth, like, you guys stopped. It's like, stopped, nothing. So, $1.99 stickers. Come on, a few $1.99 stickers, and we can get this show on the road, and we can cut the gap, and we can get rid of the second hour goal at least. $1.99, $2.99, $3 stickers, and we get to the goal pretty quickly. We had a lot of stickers today, actually. Lucinda, thank you. Alan, thank you. Let's see, what else? We had, I saw some more. Go to the beginning. Yeah, Vadim. Sylvanas did $50 right off the bat. Thank you, Sylvanas. That's the one I think I remembered. Barbara Lamar, Mary Aline. So thank you all for the stickers. But if we could get a few more, we could get to our targets. And there's the $14. So I guess we're done. You don't have to do the stickers anymore. Unless you want to get to the third hour goal. That would be good. RDF just did $1.99. Everybody should do $1.99. That should just be from now till the end of the show. $1.99, everybody. All right, let's start with Liam. The essence of Marxist theory is that humans are all helpless brutes, condemned to a revolution of the stupid brutes in the end. That humans do not possess minds, and that their values come solely from physical labor. Given all the evidence surrounding this at the moment, is it incredibly difficult to prove him wrong? As someone who advocates for reason, individualism, and capitalism, I would not downplay the threat he represents. MAGA is a covert Marxist movement, all because humans are choosing to accept emotions as their primary tool of cognition. If that choice is made, a Marxist fate is certain, and it will seem as if he was right. I mean, look, Marxism is a lot more than this view of the labor theory of value, if you will. Let's not forget that even Adam Smith had a version of the labor theory of value, of basically that it's work, it's muscle that creates value. So you can have that in a mistaken form. And that's, I mean, Marx is a determinist, so he's certainly a materialist and a determinist who thinks that history is determined. So he's been wrong since then, because everything he said would happen in the future has not happened. The communist revolution happened in the wrong place. It didn't happen in Britain. It happened in Russia. And it failed by every standard, including Marx's own standard. So, I think Marxism, called Marxism, is really dead. It's finished. I do not think Marxism as Marxism, the dialectic, the whole issue of the dialectic and so on. I think intellectuals of the left realized that Marxism was dead and it failed, in the 1930s and 1940s, and that's why they came up with postmodernism. Postmodernism is an attempt by the left to preserve its philosophical status while rejecting Marxism. And I know there are people out there who don't accept that interpretation, but that, they call it cultural Marxism. But there is no such thing. Marxism is a particular ideology with a particular philosophy, and that philosophy is dead, right? It's dead. MAGA is not Marxist. Now, it might take elements of Marx. It might sometimes sound like Marx, but MAGA does not believe in a dialectic. It doesn't believe in stuff like that. And indeed, Marxism is not emotionalism. One of the real tragedies of Marxism is he tries to argue that it's based on reason, and reason has been associated with Marxism. But part of that comes from the fact that he tries to argue from science, from facts. It's all wrong, but he's not arguing from emotion. MAGA is an emotionalistic, conspiracy theory loving, religious based mishmash of whatever happens to come into their cognition at any point in time. They are, completely disintegrated. And, every day there's a new conspiracy theory. Every day there's something else to distract them from the truth, from reality, which is ultimately what it's all about. So MAGA it's a compliment to say that MAGA is Marxist. They're not that intellectual. They have no real understanding of what it is. Again, Marxism is emotionalism. Now, what will replace MAGA? Because MAGA cannot be a governing ideology. If MAGA as a governing ideology is the complete, disaster that is Trump, disaster even for his own people, it's not a sustaining governing ideology. Something has to replace MAGA. And the thing that replaces MAGA will have to be what Leonard Peikoff called an M2, something that is well integrated. And that could be religion, integrated into a political movement, integrated maybe with environmentalism, which is what I've been predicting for a long time. Something like that. It could be nationalism, integrated with religion, integrated with environmentalism. Again, what I see as the ultimate governing authoritarian ideology of a future fascist America. I don't know, but MAGA is too all over the place. It's too disintegrated. It's too unintegrated to amount to anything but the kind of mayhem and destruction that we see from Trump. And I don't think, as a consequence, as I've said, I don't think Trump will be the great authoritarian leader of the future. Great in quotation marks. I just think he's too incompetent, too all over the place, too anti-ideological to be that. But there are people in the wings waiting. J.D. Vance being one. What's his name? Josh Hawley being another. And I'm sure there are others, Charlie Koch. I'm sure there are others that I don't know of that are waiting in the wing to bring a coherent, integrated ideology to the forefront that can replace MAGA, but can capitalize on the emotion while giving them something to emote about, some center of gravity. Right now, the center of gravity is Trump as a personality, nothing more than that. Yeah, I mean, ask me if you want about environmentalism and the right and whether environmentalism resonates with the right. You can ask me about that. All right, Michael. Things were good under Reagan and Clinton. Why did George Bush Jr. start to move us away from that? Was it due solely to the 2008 financial crisis or his bizarre ideology on compassion and conservatism? Well, it's compassion and conservatism. By the time the financial crisis hit, he'd have done a lot of the damage, and then he doubled up on the damage during the financial crisis. But you'd already had, Sarbanes-Oxley. You already had Part D of Medicare, which was a massive expansion of Medicare under a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president. No, what really undermined George Bush was compassionate conservatism. Think of it as altruistic conservatism, which conservatism is. That is, he didn't need to add the compassionate because that's exactly what conservatism is. It is altruistic. And that was unsustainable. And it was unsustainable in doing anything good. So the George W. Bush moved away because there were problems and the government had to solve them. And put aside the war in Iraq, which was bringing democracy to the world, which is, again, a product of compassion and conservatism. The poor Iraqis are ruled by a dictator. We have to go save them, bring them democracy. The freedom is in the hearts of every man. Is it really? If it was, wouldn't we have a lot more free places in the world? So George W. Bush was really, really bad because of that compassion and conservatism. And remember that even under Reagan and Clinton, things weren't great. They were just better. and think that under Reagan and Clinton, they didn't repudiate altruism. They didn't repudiate the mixed economy. They didn't repudiate capital. They didn't repudiate, statism. And they did not embrace capitalism. And the consequence of that is that, their position was never strong because it was not based on any kind of ideology. They succeeded almost by accident, particularly Clinton, or by not doing much. That's the source of their success. Michael, is it more likely we get a moderate Democrat or Republican taking over after the fall of MAGA, or is it more likely we get a Josh Hawley? I tend to think American people will bounce back to a standard candidate. I really do think that we will get a moderate Democrat, just like the American people went with Biden because they believed he was a moderate Democrat. I think that after 4 years of Trump, people will be tired. They will have had enough of MAGA, and they will want a moderate Democrat. And then the question is, will the moderate Democrat govern as a moderate Democrat, or will he, as a Bill Clinton or something like that, or will he govern as Biden did, quite moving to the left? Will he give space and voice to the nuts, right? The nuts on the far left. And if they do, then they will lose again to some kind of candidate on the right. And that'll be a rebirth of MAGA. So, I mean, this thing will bounce for a while. Will bounce for a while. And, and look, who knows what's going to happen between now and then. James, Destiny is a smart guy. He's clearly read some economics and has respect for markets. But his epistemology seems very neurotic and all over the place. It's hard to get guys like that to think in principles. Yeah, it's almost impossible for him to think in principle. And he likes to be mainstream. I think he gets credibility, self-affirmation from being mainstream, from having the support of Nobel Prize winners in economics and people, a significant portion of the left. He's conventional in the sense that he's a mixed economist. He believes in a mixed economy. And there were a lot of, Noah Smith is like this, Yingelis, however you pronounce that name, who are economists who are pretty good, and they definitely have a high respect for markets up to a point. But they're really mixed economists. They really believe in a mixture. They can't hold the principle. They won't take their respect for markets in a principled way, and they won't, even from the economic thinking, they won't think it through. They won't actually think it through to where it leads to, which is, quite shocking. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty typical. It's pretty typical. And then part of it is, a lot of it is about getting along. A lot of it's about getting along. All right, let me just say this about the chat. Edward, post less. I've said this before to you, but if you post as much as you do, I'm going to block you. It's just a distraction to me, and I think to the other people in the chat who are trying to have conversations about other stuff. You can't dominate the chat like this. Slow down. I'm not saying don't post, but cut it at least in half. And if you can't, I will block you, at least put you in timeout for a while. David, what's the worst that can happen if Israel ignores the United States and does what they want to do regardless? Well, I mean, the worst that can happen is that the United States stops supplying them with weapons. And that's a real problem because Israel is very much dependent on the United States for weapons, not for money. Israel could survive without the money, but for weapons. And if Israel cannot buy weapons from the U.S., it's in a bind. It's a problem. So I think that's the worst that can happen. Also, the U.S. not providing Israel with political and diplomatic cover could be a problem. But look, I think the U.S. has managed to piss off so many countries around the world that I'm not sure U.S. diplomatic cover for the Israel is of that much value anymore. It's mainly weapons. How do Trump's attacks on Powell affect the value of the dollar? I mean, quite significantly. Look, this is again David. What Trump wants is low interest rates no matter what. Most of economics believes that low interest rates no matter what is inflationary. I mean, Erdogan tried this in Turkey and got hyperinflation. It's inflationary. Inflation, all else held constant, causes the value of the dollar to decline versus other places that don't have inflation. So, and this is why during the Biden inflation, the value of the dollar did not go down versus other currencies because Europe was going through inflation and most of Asia was going through some inflationary pressure, so it wasn't uniquely American. So all the currencies were losing value in terms of purchasing power. It's why gold went up. But if every time he attacks Powell, the perception is either Powell will cave or Powell will be fired, and Trump will get in there people who will just lower interest rates and just force interest rates down, down, down. And the consequence of that will be inflation and the dollar being worth even less than it is now. So they're selling dollars in anticipation. And what happens if short-term interest rates go down to a point where it is believed that it will be inflationary, that is, the Fed, in order to drive interest rates down, will have to buy a bunch of bonds and thus increase the money supply, then long-term rates will go up because they'll anticipate inflation in the future and those bond prices will come down significantly. So, yes, Trump's attacks on Powell have a huge effect on the value of the dollar and on long-term interest rates. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that right now. David, why not hold T-bonds till they mature? Well, because you might need the money. So if you're a life insurance company, you have payouts on a regular basis. And if your assets are basically treasury bonds, then every year, every month, maybe every week, I don't know what schedule they do this, you have to sell a certain amount, a number of bonds. If you're a bank, you can afford to hold them until they mature as long as there's not a large demand for cash, for moving money out of your bank. And then you have to sell the bonds. This is what happened with Silicon Valley Bank. Right? They had to sell their bonds, and they took a beating when they sold the bonds because suddenly the market realized if they sell their bonds, they cannot pay all the deposits. They've lost so much money on the bonds because interest rates had gone up during the inflationary periods. So, a lot of companies can't. Now, even if you can, there's an opportunity cost, right? You might be getting a certain yield on those bonds, but now yields have gone up, which is reflected in the price of your bond going down, and you're not benefiting from them. If you had fresh money, you could invest in higher yields. So there's an opportunity cost to holding those bonds because interest rates are higher now. There are other investments you could make that get a higher return. So, but think about insurance companies that have regular payoffs, and they plan for those payoffs, and they plan to sell a number of bonds on a regular schedule. All right. Lucinda, been reading more Starship Troopers, about halfway through, and enjoying it. greatly. Although I definitely see the flirting with fascism. Also, everyone remember to reach the super chat goal. Yeah. Go, Lucinda. She's contributed to reaching the super chat goal, not only by doing super chats and by doing stickers, but also by buying memberships, gifting memberships to you guys. Let me gift some memberships to you. We gift it to 5 people. Hopefully they're deserving. Yeah, so far so good. Yeah, Jennifer just got gifted a membership. That's good. So did Dan. All right, 2 Dans. Oh no, Jennifer did not get gifted a membership. Jennifer's already a member. She just made a comment. All right, let's keep going with questions. We have got a few more. Esoteric Dichotomy. Hello, Yaron. You could spar with Destiny on a more rational tax system, entitlements, healthcare, employment, contracts, also financial deregulations. Yeah, I mean, I could spar with Destiny probably on any topic he would choose. We would disagree. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. But he has to be willing to spar. And it was clear from on yesterday's show he didn't want to spar. And that's fine. My understanding is that's his modus operandi. He first does an interview with you that's very calm, non-confrontational, and only later does he do more aggressive debates. And that's fine with me. So I'm happy to spar with him on a variety of different things if he's interested in them. So in the future, I'm not going to bug him now, but in the future, particularly if a topic is in the news, I know he's talking about it, I can go to him and ask to do a little debate with him. By the way, I still haven't seen the show posted on YouTube. So I know it's unlisted, and some of you have the link to the unlisted version, but why isn't he listing it? If any of you have any say with Destiny, please encourage him to list it and make sure it doesn't just get buried there. I got a big spike. I mean, not a huge spike, but a big spike in subscribers to YouTube and to my Twitter feed from the show yesterday. And I think if he puts it live, not live, but he puts it on his channel, I'll get another spike. Again, I don't think it's going to be thousands, but I got 60 new people. That's a month's added subscribers in one day. And I don't know how many of them will survive. Oh, Miroslav says it's in his playlist. But it's in his playlist because when I go to the site, it shows up as still unlisted. So his editors will post an edited version. Okay, I'll just wait. I'll be patient. But hopefully it'll get some views, and that'll increase subscription a little bit more, and we'll get more on Twitter. And the more on Twitter, the more I advertise the show on Twitter, the more subscriptions we get. So I'm hoping that over time it raises, and we get a good amount of people watching the show on Twitter. Right now, there are 112. Sometimes we get a lot more if we're talking about something more sexy. But anyway, not your average algorithm. Why do American people support such leftist government intervention, economic policies? Over 10 million copies of Atlas have been sold. Are college professors more powerful than Atlas Shrugged? Yeah. For most people. Most people read Atlas Shrugged, and they get excited, and they get emotionally excited. Maybe they even go out and argue with their friends, and after like the 10th friend or professor or somebody they argue with, and after the 10th thing they see on Fox and on CNN, they revert back. They go, well, that Atlas Shrugged stuff, that was extreme. That was radical. That's not how the real world is. That's not how it actually works. There's no reason to be that radical. No reason to be that extreme. Leave that. Forget that. Right? So, I think that that's what happens. And the university professors, the conventional wisdom, the media, their parents, their friends, their teachers in school, their professors at university, the intellectuals who comment on the news every single night and every single day, the people who write for the newspapers, they overwhelm you with content. that is the opposite of Atlas Shrugged, then most people, 90+% of people, get worn down by that content. And yeah, it stops. All right, I see it on the stream video on demand playlist, but it's unlisted. So, you know, a lot of people don't go to the playlist. A lot of people just look at a front page and see what video is being posted. And when a video posts, usually there's a message that goes out and the algorithm highlights it. So it's already got 40,000 views, but, you know, it should have 120,000 views. The other ones that are, oh, this one's unlisted. Yeah, so I don't know. It looks like they stay unlisted for quite a while. Mine is going to have a few views because it's not, I see a lot of these stay unlisted. Maybe he doesn't ever list them. Maybe they're just on this playlist and they never get listed. Yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. And he has comments turned off, which is also too bad, because it would be interesting to see the comments on the interview. But it looks like he just keeps all of these unlisted. So I'm not sure mine will ever get to the main site. Maybe you guys know more about the way he does things, but that's what it looks like to me. Osmond, when will you come to London? Missed you last time. I'll be in London in a week and a half. Let me just pull up my calendar. There are 2 events that are open to the public that you can attend. One is not in London, one is in London. But it would be great if those of you in the UK who can make it, it would be great if you could come to York. I'm giving a talk there. The local student union has put this together. It's the moral case for capitalism to students, but they're worried about attendance not being high. It would be great if some of you would come and attend. So please consider that if you're somewhere in the UK. It's on the 21st of May. It's at 7 p.m. In York. You can find information about it at yaronbrookshow.com. Scroll down to my list of events, and the event in York is there. I'm also be doing a public event in London at the Institute for Economic Affairs the next day on the 22nd of May, where I will be, let's see if I can find it, talking about, what am I talking about on the 22nd of May? Why is that not listed? All right, I don't know why that's not listed on my webpage. I'll get it listed. I'll make sure that the details are up on my website so you can come. But that's at the Institute for Economic Affairs. I'm giving a talk there. I'm not even sure what the topic is, but I'll get all that information. And that's in London. That's in Westminster. I then will be in Wales, and if you guys can attend the Institute for Art and Ideas Festival in Wales, Philosophy and Art Festival, I'll be doing 3 panels and 2 talks. I'll be doing a panel on inequality, a panel on the state of academia. I'll be doing a panel on what freedom means, and does freedom have chains? And then I'll be doing a talk on egoism and a talk on the rise and fall of the West. So I'll be doing 5 events at the Art and Philosophy Festival in Wales. It's on Hay on the Y, or Y on the Hay. Something like that. Hay on the Y. Equal to Reality says you can come to York. Definitely go sign up, please. Go register for the event at York. That would be great. That'd be great. So please sign up for the event at York. Hay on the Y. So if you can, come to the events at Hay on the Y, register for them, and I'd love to see you. Come up and introduce yourself. There'll be hundreds of people, thousands of people at this festival, and it'd be great to meet some of you. So those are my events in the UK in a week and a half, starting a week and a half. Not your average algorithm. Have you watched Terminator 3? Donald Trump is Skynet. He has uploaded, he was uploaded to stop a virus when he is the virus. Oh. Okay. Michael, I don't think I did watch Terminator 3, or there are a number of versions of Terminator 3, I think. I'm not sure. Michael says, when Destiny asked you, what do you call yourself, if not a libertarian, why didn't you say objectivist? You just said advocate of laissez-faire capitalism. Yeah, you're right, because I think he was asking me in the context of kind of my political economic ideology. That was the context. It was in contrast to libertarian. Libertarianism I don't count as a philosophy. It's just a political ideology. But yeah, I should have said objectivist and then explained in more detail and brought up radical for capitalism as part of that explanation. So my bad. Bradley, my business is taking off. So is my anxiety as a sole owner. Previously, I had my wife as a partner. Now I feel very alone. Is it just emotionalism? No, I think a lot of business leaders generally feel very alone. You're at the top of an organization. You've got a lot of responsibility. The lives, your life, but the lives of your family and then all your employees depend on you making the right decisions. You make the decisions alone. The buck stops with you. It's lonely. There's just no getting away from that. And what you have to find is mechanisms to deal with that loneliness. And one is find other people who are in similar positions to you that you can get together once every couple of weeks or once a month even to just chat over different issues around business, around your business, the challenges you face. I mean, things like young presidents organizations or young entrepreneurs or other kind of business groups where people are exactly the same position as you. They're leading organizations and they feel the same loneliness. So I would definitely look for opportunities to engage with people who are experiencing what you're experiencing. And as Ryan says, Ryan Ward is one of the people training hard to beat me at poker. As Ryan says, come to Ocon and you won't feel alone at Ocon. But yeah, completely understandable. I wouldn't bash yourself over the head. Oh, I'm being emotionalist. No, I mean, it's a reality. It's a challenge. And there are tools to deal with it. Barbara, don't know how epic fail ended up on the sticker I sent. It is not my assessment of the show, maybe my assessment of Trump's foreign policy. I didn't notice the epic fail. So, yeah, I didn't notice it. I still don't notice it. Yeah, I don't see it. So, no problem. Harper Campbell, Mike Pence just rebuked Trump on tariffs, Putin and January's 6 pardons in recent CNN interview. Maybe there is hope. Yeah, that a Christian conservative nut is who's willing to sanction Donald Trump his first time as president is actually critical of Trump. I mean, and Mike Pence has no power within the Republican Party, no influence, and he's a major loser. He put himself in that position of January 6th. I mean, I have zero respect for Pence other than he didn't cave to Trump, on January 6th or since. But does that compensate for all the caving he did the 4 years before that? No. And does that compensate for the fact that he's still a religious nut? No. Michael, when Germany collapsed into authoritarianism, the world had a beacon of freedom that is the United States to look to. If America collapses, that's it. The world collapses into quasi-dark ages. Maybe they hold on to the ideas of the Enlightenment, which are not exclusively American. Maybe they, maybe some other country, maybe they'll look up to Argentina of Milei. I don't know. I don't think it's all over, guys. I just don't think that it is going to be harder without America. It's already harder without America. America's already not a city on the hill, a shiny city on the hill. So the fact that America's already in decline is a challenge for people who love freedom all over the world because there's no model. But again, people can find different models, or people can escape the model and just try to achieve what was the model in history rather than the model in the present. What was the model of America when it was founded? There was none. It created it. So there's no reason people around the world can't create the model again. All right, we are entering our third hour. So please consider meeting our third hour goal, which is $250 for every hour. So we still got almost $200 to go for that third hour goal. If you can do a sticker or some more questions, happy to stick around and answer your questions if you have any. Harper Campbell, will Trump be all talk the rest of his term? 100% tariff on film is just nonsense to get attention. The adults behind the curtains don't actually let him do anything outside of stupid tweets. Really? We've got a 145% tariffs on China. We've got 10% tariffs on everybody around the world. We're tariffing the auto industry 25%. We got tariffs on Canada and Mexico in spite of the fact that we had a deal with them. What else? I mean, we could go on and on. We're deporting people like crazy without due process, without figuring out if they're really illegal or not. We're doing a huge amount of really, really, really bad stuff, and the adults in the room are letting him get away with it. So I don't know why you think the adults in the room are not letting him get away with it. I don't know who you think is an adult in the room. I really don't. Eyal, thank you for the sticker. 30 shekel, thank you. Appreciate it. Greg, thank you for the sticker. I appreciate that. Yeah, $2 stickers. That's great. Ryan, 59 days until 4th of July party at Ocon 25. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. You guys should join us. Everybody, you should all come. Scholarship, no scholarship, you just could come. Remember, there's that discount if you're a Yaron Brook Show listener. 25 YBS 10 when you sign up for Ocon. Use the discount and let's go. Let's make this a humongous, huge Ocon. We need you. We need you guys. We need more Yaron Brook Show people to show up. Really. I mean, we should have at least 200 of regular listeners to the show come to Ocon. I mean, imagine if 1,000 of you showed up. I mean, how cool, how exciting, how thrilling would that be? By the way, Greg, that was your first super chat. Thank you. Really, really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Mary Eileen, I worked for Nucor for 17 years. I retired in 2020. In my last few years, employees were asked to write Congress in favor of tariffs. God. I said no. It was a good job, but Nucor deserves this. Yeah. Thank you, Mary Eileen, for sharing that. What a great company it was and is not anymore. It's sad. It's sad. It just shows how far real leadership can go. Real entrepreneurial skill and talent and leadership. Esoteric dichotomy. Also maintaining positive rapport, finding commonality in opposition to Trump, Republicans, MAGA. Maybe talk about Supreme Court rulings, geopolitics. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Finding commonality in opposition to Trump, Republicans, MAGA. Talk about Supreme Court rulings, geopolitics. I do talk about Supreme Court rulings all the time. And I do talk about them positively, generally. And I do talk about geopolitics all the time. So I guess I'm not sure what you're saying. Ryan, I wonder if there will be a market for a Trump effigy supply company. The coming marches will bring high demand. Will you invest, Yaron? I'm not investing in individual companies. I'm well diversified. I like it that way. Don't ask me to invest. But maybe you can make a lot of money on Trump effigies. Dan, great job on Destiny Show. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Michael, I don't know how I made it through yesterday knowing what I know today. That's a quote from Ayn Rand. Yeah. Hopefully, every day you know more. Hopefully, every day you know more. And you wish you could go back and use that knowledge to make your life even better. Because that's the standard in the end of the day, right? Your life being better. Lucinda, let's all work to achieve the Super Chat goal. Don't forget to send stickers. Thank you, Lucinda. Lucinda is a woman of her word. She follows through. She doesn't just ask, she does. Robert, $14 done. Thank you, Robert. Robert got us to that second hour goal. Now we're shooting for that third hour goal. Robert again, stickers rock. Yes, they do. Supicask. Ando shows the intricacies of the machine of oppression and how that machine degrades the human spirit and turns its victims into empty husks, relegating a simple animalistic existence. It's amazing. Yeah, I think it does that, but of course, I think a lot of shows do that. I think it's relatively easy to show the evils of authoritarianism. What I think Ando did particularly well is it explored the psychology of the rebels, of the people who stand up against that oppression, who are willing to fight against it. And it shows how hard it is, because it's not easy, how hard it is. It's the positives, I think, the heroism that really makes Ando an interesting show. Silvana says, I loved Starship Trooper. I'm doing my part. Yeah, I did too. The movie was terrible, but I really liked the book. Generally, I liked Henline. Again, my favorite, for those of you who care, was Time Enough for Love. I'm curious, Lucinda, if you ever read Time Enough for Love, what you think. Because that book really touched me. It's about love. Time Enough for Love. It's about love, and it's really meaningful. David, thank you. Thank you for the support in the Super Chat. See you tomorrow or some other time. Paul, what is your opinion of Trump's ceasefire with the Houthis? Did he sell out Israel? I talked about that at the beginning of the show. I think generally it's a sellout, not just of Israel, but of America, because I think that it gives the Houthis time to rearm, to reestablish themselves, and it gives them the option to decide in the future to block the Red Sea again. And they know the kind of effect it has on the U.S. and Europe and on Israel, and that the U.S. does very little in response. So I think it is a selling out of Israel and the U.S. I think they shouldn't have stopped until they had brought the Houthis to their knees. And at the end of the day, they shouldn't stop until they bring the Iranians to their knees, because at the end of the day, the Houthis are nothing, literally nothing, without the Iranians. So, yeah, but Trump wants to deal with the Iranians. And a deal with the Houthis is a step in that direction for him, I think. Echo to reality. I would come to Okan, but I don't have the flight money. And also, I don't want to be detained by Trump and sent back home to the UK. I don't think you're going to be detained by Trump. I don't think he's detaining UK people. Just delete all the emails and the chat messages where you criticize Trump and you're safe. You're fine. I'm kidding. But have you checked? Because I don't think it's that expensive to fly from, Luton Airport to Boston. You might be surprised at how cheap some of those flights can be and are. And the other question is, have you applied for a scholarship? So anyway, check those flights out. It's sometimes surprising. Raphael, what kind of government existed in 1776 and what kind of new structure the U.S. founding implemented? Well, in 1776, there were basically states that were, some of them had constitutions, they had governing documents, but basically they were ruled by the English. But they were states that ultimately had the ultimate authority being the parliament and the king. I mean, the states were really colonies at that point. They weren't states. And then, after 1776, the states all wrote their own constitutions. And there was a confederacy. There was like a confederate kind of constitution that wasn't very good and didn't really harmonize the interests of the 13 colonies. It didn't protect individual rights. So the founders decided what they really needed was a constitution. And that's why they had a constitutional convention in order to unite the states under one federal government, and where the states still maintained some autonomy, but not as much as they'd had before. So what they instituted was a constitutional republic. That's what the Constitution created in the post, after the War of Independence, when the Constitution was enacted and then approved by the states. Lucinda says, I'll make sure to read Time Enough for Love once I'm done with Starship Trooper then. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. There's also Stranger in a Strange Land and what do you call it? The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, where there's a Randian character, and there's the one where an old man uploads his consciousness into the body of a sexy young woman. That one's fun. There's one where heaven and hell, God and the devil are brothers, and there's a heaven and a hell, and heaven is boring, and hell is fun and interesting, and that one's fun. So he has a lot of fun books. My favorite, again, is Time Enough for Love, but a lot of fun books that kind of play around with the conventions. He plays around a lot with conventions of sex. Particularly in his later books. All right. The train to Lutton doesn't cost a lot of money. Equal to reality is looking for excuses not to go to Ocon. Come on, guy. Train to Lutton won't cost you more than 30 pounds. Is my guess. I think I'm right. I mean, I'm taking the train to York, which is further away from London to York, which is costing off peak is less than 30 pounds. So just don't go peak. Anyway, we're gonna get Equal to Reality to Boston. We're gonna get him. Maybe we can do a little super chat fund to fund his train ride from wherever he lives to Luton. Luton or Luton, one or the other. All right, everybody. Thank you. I will see you all tomorrow. Really appreciate the support. Appreciate all the super chatters. Don't forget, if you want to support the show on a regular basis, patreon.com. And there are all kinds of perks that you can get if you sign up there. And Luton. It's Luton. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, the show's at 4, I think, Eastern time. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think all 3 days the show is at 4 or later, like 4:30 maybe. Anyway, see you then. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.